what I'm saying here is you need to know the specifics on how the council is going to work and how they will want the information from you. So I will always say, as belts and braces approach, contact the council. Welcome team to the weekly live Q&A at Premier Property. My name is Cameron Devady. I'm the founder of Premier Property, and every week, as you're probably aware, if you're joining us for the first time, I answer questions every single week for new and experienced investors. In fact, we've got some detailed questions here today, so feel free to build up your knowledge bank, feel free to engage, comment and ask anything that you like. And if you make some comments and you ask some questions, I will do my best to answer these. And all I'm doing is showing my humble experience over the last 30 years investing in property and developing. So we are going into these questions. This is from our Premier Property community, and this is aired live on the Premier Property community Facebook group, and then this is also shown on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, you know you can click on that bell icon and subscribe. And if you're not part of the Premier Property community on Facebook, well, come and join us. You're welcome. Just ask and we will make sure our team actions that, and so you are welcome to join us. So question here from Paresh Patel. So Paresh is asking, he's got single lets in a selective licensing area, and can you please help with the following rental property local council selective licensing conditions, and how does Premier Property cover these? He's asking Paresh. And the conditions for selective licensing, what are they? Okay, so he's asking specifically, so these are the conditions that he's got to satisfy. So part of selective licensing. So providing tenants with a written complaints procedure, condition of the license, and is needed immediately. So providing tenants with a written complaints procedure is, it can be as simple as a one-pager where you provide them with contact details, the address where they can be contacted at as well. The phone number is sufficient and an email is usually sufficient, but you can add contact details there as well, an address, and literally, letting them know that, any written complaints need to be addressed here or emailed here, and that suffices that part. Now, this is the thing about selective licensing. Legislation, it can seem quite complicated out there. However, when you really assess it, it's so doable, and when you break it down like we're doing now, it becomes very manageable. So point number one, we can tick that one off just like that. The next question that's being asked is part of the selective licensing requirement: provide tenants with some form of rent book, receipt, rent statement with respect to rent payments. It's another condition of the license. So here, in selective licensing areas that we have when it comes to these types of properties, buy-to-lets and so on, then what we do is we will typically provide them with an email. So a rent acceptance, that the rents come in. If it's a requirement of the license, it's literally a case of sending them a confirmation of payment received with the date, and literally you can copy and paste that on a monthly basis, just changing the date and create a template like this. It's literally just that, like what I'm showing. So that again ticks off that second part. Now the third part is part number 3 of the license is the property must not be considered to be in breach of licensing conditions as prescribed by Schedule 4 of the Housing Act, namely appropriate confirmation of the condition of any smoke alarms installed with the accommodation. So when you're installing smoke alarms, what we tend to do is we get a sign off by the electrician who's normally putting those in. They're normally hardwired, and we get them tested, and there's a confirmation there. So that's the way to do that one. And do get them tested on an annual basis. Normally your manager can do that for you, namely your letting agents that you're using in that area. That is one of their roles. The next part is the license is asking appropriate confirmation that the electrical appliances and furniture are maintained in a safe condition. Now, if you're like us, you don't really provide furniture for the types of properties we're discussing here, which is single lets. So because we're not providing the furniture, really there isn't really anything to say there. Now in HMOs where we are providing the furniture, so what we do in those types of HMOs, the slightly larger ones, we will have PAT tests done, PAT tests done. This is where an electrician or a PAT tested compliant service provider comes in and PAT tests them. It doesn't cost a lot of money. We're talking, within a couple of £100 or less, and that confirms that one. And in terms of your furnishings for HMOs, what we do is we make sure that they are within the realms of fire regulations, and that will actually already be on the furniture that you purchase. It actually say fire approved and so on, and it has a little label. You've probably seen one of these labels, right? And these labels are attached to the furniture, and you just leave them there, and that is absolutely fine. That covers the basis of that part of the requirement for the condition of license. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So this is all about, another question about selective licensing. Right, so this is more to do with mixed use and commercial residential. So the question is, do landlords need to apply to the local councils that operate selective licensing for mixed use and commercial retail shops, and if there's a residential floor above? So the thing here is, when you're renting out with selective licensing and it's on a leasing basis, it's always good to check in with the local council, because things can be really different compared to which council you're dealing with and which area that you're in. So, for example, one of our boroughs that we deal with is Newham. Newham is politely, is a very interesting council. They do things in various ways. And then we've got councils within the northeast of England, which take a different approach, and so on, right? We got another one of our golden one areas is in Kent. The council acts and behaves in a different way there. So what I'm saying here is, you need to know the specifics on how the council is going to work and how they will want the information from you. So I will always say, as belts and braces approach, contact the council. That can be via an email. If you can get through to a phone number, even better. You will find the person on the phone eventually. Eventually being the key word. Right now, they're very short of resources, in my experience, and you got to get to that person. But when you do, they're very useful. So the way I do this is, as a belts and braces, I always check in with the council individual who is dealing with that in that department, the selective licensing. So I'll just have a check-in with them. In terms of leases, you would just check in and say, look, we've got a lease. I understand that on an AST, on a short hold tenancy basis, that you require this licensing. How about on a lease? Do we or don't we? What's the process? And they'll give you the process, and you just follow that system. In my experience, we don't have selective licensing areas where we're renting out commercial properties and haven't really come across that. However, I'm sharing with you the solution on how you can actually do it. Is just check in with that individual in that department within the council. But trust me, you're going to have to find them, and that might take a few phone calls and a little bit of time, but you can. But now you got that peace of mind. And by the way, like what I say, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. And if you haven't subscribed, well, look, this is so much fun. Subscribe and be part of the community. I'd love you to be part of the community. It's Cam Devady helping you to take your property investing to the next level. I'll see you this time next week. Bye for now.